Bienvenidos! In today's video, we're going to go over adjectives as nouns. So how can you use adjectives to sort of replace nouns? Let's take a look. So let's start by defining what do I mean by using adjectives as nouns. Well, in English, when you say, which one do you prefer, the tight sweatshirt or the loose one? The loose one is using an adjective in place of a noun. Or, did you buy a leather jacket or a wool one? A wool one would be an example of an adjective used as a noun. Now let's take a look to see how we would work with these. How would you express the loose one, the wool one, the blue one? How would you create that in Spanish? Let's take a look. These are helpful for when comparisons show up of similar things. So when you have more than one of an item, for example. This avoids repetition, so you don't have to say the item over and over again. So in the past, you probably needed to say, do you prefer the red book or do you prefer the green book? Now you can just say the green one instead, so it avoids repetition. It's helpful for answering questions too for that reason. Basically, all there is to this is you take what the normal structure would be, drop the noun, get rid of it, leave the article and adjective in place, and there you go. That's how you use an adjective as a noun. So what do I mean by that? ¿Prefieres la sudadera apretada o la floja? Do you prefer the tight sweatshirt or the loose one? So if you take the option you're given and you just drop the noun, so in this case, what's the noun? The person, place, or thing? Sweatshirt, so that goes away. Whatever you're left with, that's how you form this construction of an adjective as a noun. So in my answer, I would say, prefiero la apretada. I prefer the tight one versus the loose one. So let's see another example. ¿Prefieres la sudadera de Paco o la de Anita? Do you prefer Paco's sweatshirt or Anita's? When you have this construction, it's a little different. In our first example, we had a clearly defined article and an adjective, so a word that describes a noun. Here, in the second example, de Paco, this whole thing acts like a phrase, an adjective phrase. So when we remove the noun, which is sudadera, we're left with la de Paco would be one reply, or la de Anita. So if you wanted to answer, you could say, prefiero la de Paco. If de is involved, it stays because it's part of the adjective. Remember, only the noun disappears. Now, what are some things you need to keep in mind with these constructions? Well, remember, the article has to stay. What are the articles in Spanish? We have two types, definite and indefinite. Definite all mean the, but remember they change based on gender and quantity. So you've got el, la, los, or las. And then for indefinite, that's how you would express a or an, or some or any. So un, una, unos, unas. So the articles stick around. Now remember that the article un, when it is not next to a noun, we are taking away the noun. We have to revert it back to uno. So don't forget that. So if I want to say I prefer a loose one, maybe I'm talking about an abrigo or something like that, I could say prefiero uno flojo. Un cannot float by itself without a noun here, so it becomes uno again. Prefiero uno flojo. So remember that un becomes uno when there's no noun. The other thing to keep in mind is that the article and the adjective that remain still agree with the missing noun, the original noun that we take away. So if the noun was masculine and singular, you're going to use your masculine and singular articles and a masculine and singular adjective as well. So agreement still applies here. Alright, this first example, we're going to try to put this into Spanish. So did you buy a wool jacket or a leather one? A leather one indicates that I'm going to need to use an adjective as a noun to complete this last part using the formula we talked about. So our sentence will start off normal. Did you buy? So compraste. Remember the did is part of the verb conjugation. Compraste a wool jacket. una chaqueta de lana. O, now let's take a look. Now remember the options are similar, right? So the structure is going to be similar. So we had a wool jacket or a leather one. Now if I'm referring to a jacket, right? That's my noun. So that's the word I'm not going to include if I want to say a leather one. However, I still need my article and my adjective. So if it's chaqueta, my article would still be una to express a. And then how do I get leather? Well, because leather by itself is usually a noun, remember it's a material, we would say de cuero. So just to highlight this for you, this is your article, this is your adjective, de cuero, just like de lana was here for wool. And that gives us a leather one. Compraste una chaqueta de lana o una de cuero. Because of the de, remember that nothing after it changes in any way, shape, or form. If you can just remember that, it'll help you keep things clear. So una de cuero is a leather one, referring back to a jacket. So this first example, you're creating an adjective as a noun from scratch. But what if you're given a question and answer? So you're already given the Spanish question and you give a Spanish reply to the question instead of just translating. That's even easier. Find your two options. That's the first step. So, ¿prefieres el traje claro o el traje oscuro? So do you prefer the light suit or the dark suit? I like to underline them just to make sure I know where my options are, per se, if this was like a quiz or a written assignment. Now remember I said you need to remove the noun. That will allow just an article and adjective to remain. So in this phrase that we underlined, what's the noun? What's the person, place, or thing? Suit, traje. So that's the word that's going to disappear. So once you choose your option, all you need to give your answer is el claro or el oscuro as far as the adjective as noun portion goes. So when I reply, I can say, prefiero el claro. I prefer the light one. So by crossing out traje here, I was able just to take the leftovers and move it into my new reply. So don't be afraid to mark up your sentences to help keep straight what you need to move into the new reply to use that adjective as a noun. So I prefer the light colored one, el claro. And that's adjectives as nouns. If you've seen recent videos in topics that we've been covering, basically the big theme here is avoiding repetition, and these are a super useful tool to do that. If you can use them correctly, it really makes your sentences a lot more crisp, a lot more clear, a lot more concise, and you don't have to repeat yourself and restate over and over again, which is an excellent thing for both your speaking and your writing. So practice these and they will get easier. Gracias, buena suerte, y nos vemos.